Hi everybody, this is the Final Bosman, and on today's episode, I'm kissing last gen goodbye forever. Let's get started. Welcome to the show. I am Kyle Bosman, and I'm excited this week to talk about Nintendo. Did you see? This hasn't happened before. All right. Oh, okay. Looks like for the next month and a half or so, GameTrailers.com only wants to talk about next gen because of the big next gen showdown stuff. Thank you. Oh, you know what? That's okay. I'll just talk about the Wii U. Did you see that new Super Mario 3D World trailer? Oh my goodness! Okay, so we have another note. Oh, so the official GameTrailers.com stance is that the Wii U is not next gen. Okay. Thought we covered that. But, hey, you know what? Okay, I have an idea. You know how next gen's upon us? I was thinking maybe like we can bid farewell to last gen. You know, give it a sort of reflection upon everything that it was. Today's list are my top 5 things I won't miss about last gen. Let's do it! Next Gen Showdown! Feel the intensity! This is a war! War! The first thing I won't miss about last gen is the Xbox avatars. When they were introduced in 2008, the Xbox avatars were sort of the first phase of Microsoft telling its most loyal fan base that they're not profitable enough. They just looked at the Wii and like, you know what? You know what the one thing that Wii's got right? It's those freaking Miis. They're fantastic. We need those, but we need them to fit our brand. We need the kind of Mii who's cool, mature, and assertive. We need the kind of Mii that you'd want to grab a beer with. And then they just had Rare, the masters of character design, go full-time onto creating avatars that everyone had to create. All of your dumb friends made an avatar, and they all looked the same, basically. They all looked plain. They're just these soulless puppet people. And the thing I dislike most about these avatars is to give them attitude, I guess, to make them more cash. They all leaned on one side the same way, every single one of them, as if that's where your attitude comes from. Please allow me to demonstrate. This is how a normal person stands. This is how an Xbox avatar stands. The good news though, it looks like with the Xbox One, the avatars are dead. Those Xbox avatars are gone. Even the dumb new Kinect Sports game looks like it's using actual human beings as its characters, so goodbye Xbox avatars. Don't let the door hit your butt on the way out. Second thing I won't miss about last gen is the PS3's L2 and R2 buttons. So the PS3, when it was released, kind of came with a lot of weird baggage. It kind of seemed at the time that Sony was out of touch, that it didn't know what was going on. A lot of those things have been patched up in the years since, but one thing we're still stuck with are the PlayStation 3's L2 and R2 buttons. These are commonly called triggers, I think, a lot in a lot of today's controllers, but they clearly weren't at the time of the controller design. Look at these. Look at these squishy, doughy buttons. They're convex as opposed to concave. It's like your fingers are designed to just roll off of them. Oh, let me erase. Nope. Oh, okay. All right. And I just can't help but imagine the designer of this controller not really knowing how games are played. Like, oh, you just hit the button once, right? You just press buttons. And it's like, no, we hold those down, and you made that impossible. Fortunately, with the PlayStation 4, there are triggers. Look at those. I could hold that down all day. But we will be seeing the end of the PS3's L2 and R2 buttons. So goodbye, L2 and R2 buttons. You marshmallows. The third thing I won't miss about last gen is Nintendo games being stuck on the Wii. So, when the Wii came out in 2006, it was exciting, it was great. There was a lot of potential there. But in the following months, we sort of started realizing that the remote wasn't going to do half the things we thought it could. And then a lot of us started getting HD TVs, and that gap between the Wii and its HD competitors grew wider and wider. And so it got to this point when Nintendo was announcing new games, it became harder to be excited about them because you knew that that game could be better if it weren't on the Wii. And a case in point with Skyward Sword, that was going to be the one. Twilight Princess, that was a GameCube game, ported up to the Wii. Skyward Sword was going to be, this game was designed for the Wii. And, you know, it kind of fell flat in the excitement levels of where it should have been. And I think that's because of its motion controls and how they performed on stage. And I mean, I adore Skyward Sword. It is actually my favorite Zelda game, don't tell anyone. But even I think that those motion controls serve as a detriment to that game. So it feels good, honestly, to have that behind us, to have an HD Nintendo console that doesn't rely entirely on motion controls. And let me tell you, Wind Waker HD, that is one gorgeous game. That game is so beautiful. Got another note. This one just says Wind Waker is a 7.8. Yep, thank you. Could have at least been an 8, probably. The fourth thing I won't miss about last gen is putting AA batteries in an Xbox controller. With the Xbox 360's wireless controller, if you didn't want to put in AA batteries, you had to buy these rechargeable battery packs, and even those died after a while.
The Xbox One has the same thing.
What?
The Xbox One has the same thing.
Why? The fourth thing I won't miss about last gen is Final Fantasy 13. This one's gonna feel good to put behind us. Final Fantasy 13 in itself is not an evil game, but Final Fantasy 13 as a whole was sort of just this poisonous ghost that haunted the entire console generation. It began with this reveal trailer that was clearly CG, and it was just this thing that the game itself could never live up to. And then there was that E3 when Microsoft gleefully announced that they would be delaying the game so it could also come out on Xbox 360. And every single message board became this uninhabitable wasteland of tears and boasting and people pulling their pants up and bragging and ridiculous proclamations of Sony's doom. Just became a scary place to be on the internet at the time. And then when the game came out, very few people actually cared or liked it. And that's because, honestly, it was flawed. There are, for good reason, a lot of people who aren't into it. Essentially, the game sort of lacked any charm that the series usually has. Very little to love about the game, very few moments to grasp onto and just say, oh, I like this. And so I think Final Fantasy 13 kind of speaks to a lot of the problems that Japan had this last generation with console games development. And I think that the sequels to Final Fantasy 13 aren't necessarily Square Enix being out of ideas or them thinking that it's insanely popular so they have to capitalize. I think it's kind of just, they spent a lot of money on that engine and those assets and they need to make it back somehow. So it's like, well, I guess we have to make more Final Fantasy 13 games. Oh boy, let's make more. And so looking forward to next gen, I'm so happy that Final Fantasy Versus 13 is now named Final Fantasy 15. And we can kind of just move on to newer, greener pastures, and we can have hope for the series again.
You're the last piece in the puzzle.
I like that. That's good editing. I like when you put jokes in there. It's pretty clever. The fifth thing I won't miss about last gen is dreaming of what a Sony Smash Bros. Game would be like. I used to wonder what it would be like if Sony made a Smash Bros. Game with all of its classic characters. I don't wonder that anymore. And that concludes this week's list. As a side note, I don't think you necessarily have to buy into next gen. I think that the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 still have plenty of great games, future and present, for them. And I kind of don't feel good about calling them last gen already. You know, I think they still have life in them. And honestly, the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 are kind of just for us dumb idiots who have scraped up enough expendable income to plop it down on this thing we absolutely don't need. But to be honest, there aren't going to be a lot of games that you absolutely must have on those consoles well into next year probably. So don't feel any rush to think that your console is last gen. Wii U, though. That's got some spectacular... Okay. No, I get it. I get it. Stop it. No, it's fine. I don't need it. I don't need this. Stop it. Well, that's the episode for this week. Hey, if you have some things you won't miss about Last Gen, let us know in the comments below. I'm sure I forgot some fun stuff. And if you're on Twitter, you can find me at Kyle Bosman. And I will be back here next Wednesday. I hope to see you then. Thanks for watching. My name is Matt, and I like to go hiking.
My name is Matt, and I love to eat snacks with my friends.
In high school, I got pretty average grades.
In high school, I had a girlfriend who rubbed my back during lunch.
I like to watch football on Sundays.
My favorite football team is the San Diego Chargers. Phillip Rivers has quite the arm. It's a laser beam, brother.
I don't want to be doing this.
Experience.